look, they have the talent. There's no doubt they have the most talent across in terms of depth in Ireland. And Nienaber is going to come into a team who are desperate, I think, for him. I think if you're,
why is that?
Well, because they haven't got the trophies and medals to show
and they
for
see him as the missing link, is it?
Well,
the final piece.
They had a lot of belief in Stuart Lancaster, but obviously that journey's over. And they just want to get across the line. They want to be champions of Europe, certainly a minimum to win in URCs. And they slipped up last year. They didn't have anything to show for it, despite playing great rugby all year.
Sure.
But they know that they're going to be judged on Champions Cups and at least URCs. So, and I think his standing, like he was well respected in Munster with Razzie, but what he's done since, you know, you'd have to be envious of watching what he's done with the Springboks, to go back to back and to be able to say
he's a winner.
He's a winner and come into this group now, a lot of internationals, a lot of depth. And to put that finishing touch on them to help them get over the line, I think is a big opportunity.
I'll get back to you on what the finishing touch, defence versus whatever else in a minute. But
yeah, I think he's the right man in the right place at the right time. He also is coming in, while he's been with South Africa and done a brilliant job over the past 4 or 5 years, he also knows the DNA of Leinster. He knows it from the outside. You know, he can go in there and talk about, this is how you're perceived by everybody else. This is how your neighbours down the road saw you. You know, they've lacked something. They have the players, I think, as they're 18 or 19, to come back in from the Ireland World Cup squad. But just that last 5%. He was the king of defence when he was in Munster. That was his primary area of activity. And also, if you were to look back at one of the key elements of South Africa winning the World Cup, I think they conceded only 7 tries throughout the whole tournament. His defence was outstanding. I mean, you highlighted a brilliant piece last week in terms of, you know, it isn't just sort of a blitz defence. It's so well coordinated. If he can bring that to Leinster, given we know their attacking quality, we know the sum of their parts, but I think that extra 5% to get over the line, allied with an even stronger defence, he could well be the missing ingredient.
And I don't think there's any team were as ruthless as the Boks in terms of selection, in terms of replacements, substitutions, and it's a lot easier to do that when you've come from back-to-back World Cups. And they were able to create this environment with the Boks where no one questioned those decisions. You know, it was all about the team. I'm not saying that Leinster have been soft in that area by any means, but they've taken that.
Sorry, Bernard, but the bottom line is, if the URC was a league that was decided on 18 games, Leinster would be perennial champions. If the Heineken was a cup that was decided like a league, they'd be, but it's the cup games that they lose. He's just won a World Cup.
Yeah, and 3 knockout games by a point. You know what I mean? And that's the reality. If you look at the games that Leinster have lost against La Rochelle, there's been 1 score, you know, and to be able to bring that weighing scales into a positive and get them over the line, it could lead to back-to-back Champions Cups or triple. No, but you know what I mean? That's like, they just need something, push them that last piece of the way over, like Rog did with La Rochelle, you know, like Razzie and he have done with the Springboks, and that's I think what everyone's waiting for.
Well, I think it'll be interesting as well, because not only, as I say, can he give a sort of a Munster perspective on how, you know, they approach things. I know it was 4 or 5 years ago, but he can also do it, given that the vast majority of that Leinster team were involved with Ireland or are involved with Ireland. As South African coach, they had them in the pool stage.
He'd have researched
so
them.
He would have researched them inside out. He can now pick them apart, and maybe, you know, I don't think, and we've seen it throughout their selection policy in the World Cup, reputations mean nothing. I mean, the way they sort of discarded Manny Libbok and Cobus Reinach were the halfbacks for the semi-final and the quarter-final. They weren't even in the matchday squad for the final. But also he'll be able to turn around to the Gary Ringroses and these people and say, well, look, this is what we identified in you. This was an area that we
felt... And he's the stature to deliver that message.
Absolutely. Well, when you've won back-to-back World Cups as a coach, I think the Leinster fellas will be rubbing their hands, sitting back. What is this fella going to bring?
Number 10 then for Leinster is still, I mean, it's Ross Byrne's jersey, one would think. But, you know, they do have options there, and they're probably going to have to just land and stick, aren't they?
Yeah, I think he's going to come in and give everyone a chance. Obviously, Harry Byrne's had a couple of opportunities. Sam Prendergast came off the bench, which is great. Ross will need a chance to come back, but I think everybody starts from scratch with someone like Nienaber. Like, you know, whereas past endeavours should have no relevance anymore.
Well, Ross as well should be massively hungry. I mean, he sat behind Johnny Sexton for so long. He went to the World Cup. A lot of people would have felt maybe he was number 2. Jack Crowley ended up, maybe because of the configuration of the bench or whatever. But He wasn't in the matchday squad.
Or
for
maybe
the games.
because of the end of the season last year where Jack Crowley dropped a goal that won a trophy.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be interesting what they do around town.
It will be, yeah.
Personally, I think Sam Prendergast is the man for the future from a Leinster perspective. It's a question of, and we saw this in Munster, and I know we're going to talk about them soon, in terms of selection, giving young fellas the opportunity. Other countries do it. They do it in France all the time. You know, we've spoken about Roman Intimac being promoted as 19, 20-year-old. Give these guys the opportunity. They can do it. They need exposure.
Okay, so this is the year.
We'll see. We'll see. But it's exciting to think about what he could do. And I think it's also going to have ramifications for Ireland. Because if he drastically changes how Ireland defend, and you have James Lowe, Jimmy O'Brien, Hugo Keane and Gary Ringrose, etc., in that system, is that going to lead into the Irish system? Because we've never had that real
No, it's a real
contrast before.
Frankenstein, isn't it? Like, but